Well, this has been a very, very interesting last week with our election here in Wisconsin. Joining us this morning is UWL Political Science Assistant Professor Anthony Chergosky to break down the election results for us. Good morning, Anthony.
Great to be with you, Jen.
So, first let me say, have we ever seen an election like this before in Wisconsin?
Not even close. I mean, an election where the governor tries to postpone it, and then you have the courts getting involved saying, no, it's going to go on in-person voting as planned. And then you have the majority of people voting by mail. There was nothing like this that I can remember. This was as wild and as wacky an election as you can imagine. And politics in Wisconsin do get pretty wild and wacky, but this one set a new standard.
A new bar there. So I want to talk about the state Supreme Court race, because that's the race that I think everybody knew was a contentious one and was going to matter the most. I remember you sitting here months ago talking about the importance of the state Supreme Court election and the balance of power in the state. Tell me about your takeaway on what happened and the importance of it.
Well, with Jill Karofsky's win over Dan Kelly, the majority on the state Supreme Court goes from 5-2 conservative down to 4-3 conservative. So the conservatives still have the majority, but it's a lower majority. Now, how did Jill Karofsky win? Huge voter participation in Milwaukee, a surge of voters in Milwaukee. And then if you look at the Milwaukee suburbs plus Western Wisconsin, our area, she did really well. She moved the margins back in her favor compared to some previous liberal Supreme Court justices. And that's really the Democratic Party's formula for winning. Boost turnout in the cities of Madison and Milwaukee, and then move the margins back in their favor here in Western Wisconsin and in the suburban areas of Milwaukee.
There's just a mess going on right now with the absentee ballots. I mean, it was a mess before. It's a mess now with some people that never received their ballots and some people that have found ballots that were not turned in. A lot of confusion revolving around that. Do you think that that's going to play out here post-election now?
Oh, definitely. And as we move forward to November, we have to make plans for what the election will look like if we're still in a bad situation with the coronavirus. And so voting by mail and how to handle a large volume of mail-in votes, that's going to be really important for states to be able to deal with. And Jen, the local election clerks just did a fabulous job under impossible circumstances. They were doing the best they could. But the system just wasn't designed for this absolute crush of mail-in requests that they received. And so, I mean, the voters who requested mail-in ballots, the local election officials, they're the real heroes in this election. But still, the system wasn't designed for a predominantly mail-in election. So you had plenty of hiccups along the way that were just unavoidable.
What do you think the likelihood, though, of mail-in being passed in legislation?
It's a great question, Jen. You know, one big question that people have is, would it favor either party over the other? And the research shows that, if anything, having mail-in ballots would slightly favor the Republican Party, but it wouldn't favor either party significantly. I think if you want to increase voter turnout, mail-in ballots are a pretty clear way to do so. There are some states, like Washington states, that conduct their election entirely through mail-in ballots. And unsurprisingly, Jen, those states have among the highest voter participation rates in the country.
Could we actually see a bipartisan vote in mail-in ballots? We'll have to see. It seems like a strange thing to happen in Wisconsin these days, to have a bipartisan vote. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We always love your take on things that are happening, and I'm sure we'll touch base with you many more times before November. Stay safe. We're going to take a break. We've got a live look through City Cam 8. The latest forecast is coming up.